Welcome to the Valentina Fest. Welcome to summer in Washington in January. And I would say that only Valentina can create a standing room only for an installation ceremony, so thank you very much. That video was kind of fun because President Burwell and Parthiban, David, and I, and Courtney, we said, let's surprise Valentina and Sonia. So we basically texted them, it was in the summer, and we said, hey, can we just get you on a Zoom? I think I said, can I talk to you? So we just set up a Zoom. Yeah. She was, luckily she had a bathing suit on, she put on her Coca-Cola t-shirt. But, so on comes the Zoom, and President Burwell's there, and Parthiban, and Courtney, and Peter couldn't make it that day, but anyway, classic Valentina. And in other classic news, she talked about beating Djokovic. So today, Djokovic lost in Australia to someone from where? Italy. Okay. So nice planning. I want to welcome some VIPs. We have a lot of VIPs here, but President Burwell, Provost Wilkins, deans, president's council members. I want to give a special shout out to Courtney Searles, who, as of now, has raised $460 million, and everybody. Provost Starr, thank you for being here. We know, we're just so happy you're here, and former Provost Bass is here as well. Lynn Powers, who represents the Co-Gods, is parking somewhere. She'll be here. We have several members of our Board of Trustees. Mehdi Haravi, thank you very much. Lillian Baez Mendoza is coming. Former trustee Albelardo Valdez is here or coming. We have representatives of the AU Alumni Board. Maybe just raise your hand. Thank you very much. Thanks for everything you do for the university, and thanks for being here. Co-God faculty and staff, thank you for being here. We have a number, there's Lynn Powers, thank you very much. So we have a lot of events and a lot of Co-God events lately, and there's this amazing team that have done these great events. So Beth, Greta, Laura, Sharon, Emerson, Cassandra, Julie, Liana. Julie actually got COVID in an event, so she's not here, but she's with us in spirit. Okay, and then we have one really VIP, who is Valentina's daughter, Angie. So, this is Angie at Flo Rida, and we want a reenactment of that today. So, okay. Let me tell you a little about Valentina for those of you who don't know her. She is a risk taker. So she grew up in Milan, near Milan. She went to school there, and she basically thought, I'm going to study here, get a job here, be local the rest of my life. And an academic advisor said, you should raise your horizons and go to London. That's where you belong. And so she booked a one-way ticket to London, got a PhD at LSE, and she has been bold ever since. She has broken boundaries in research. And this boldness, this risk-taking I talk about, actually probably created challenges for Valentina when she first started her career, because as she describes it, and Parthiban David has described it, many researchers, many scholars focus on incremental changes to research, to literature, to scholarship. Valentina did the opposite. She took bold steps. And what that meant early in her career was rejection after rejection after rejection from the leading journals. And I would say she struggled. But then, in classic Valentina fashion, when she broke through big. So her work on financial stability and liquidity in the system has been groundbreaking. It's been on the cover of The Economist. The Federal Reserve Chair cited it. The IMF uses it, and it was the centerpiece of a G20 meeting, okay? Her work on exchange rates has also been groundbreaking. So all of us, when we were in university, and I did trade, President Burwell and I did trade in the 90s together, we worked on exchange rate issues, okay? And the theory in the 70s and 90s for developing countries was devalue your currency, and that'll increase your exports, okay? Valentina's research flipped that on its head. She basically looked at the whole ecosystem and said that the weight of the dollar as such a dominant currency, since so many firms borrow in dollars, the impact of the dollar outweighs the depreciation impact on currency. So actually, strategies to depreciate currencies for developing countries don't work. This is the stuff that Sylvia and I worked on in the Clinton administration with Russia, with China, with Japan. And countries in the last 10 to 15 years, developing countries have not used devaluation as a strategy to increase exports. It doesn't work. And Valentina's research proved that. She has impact, okay? So we have a lot of former faculty who are here that have retired that came back to honor Valentina. We have students that have flown in from all over the country because they love Valentina. And her research has impact. So going back to financial stability and liquidity, we know that during COVID, liquidity led to the loss of 20 million jobs in the United States. During the Great Recession, it led to the loss of 13 million jobs. And during the Great Recession, 3 million homeowners in the United States lost their houses. That's 1 in almost 50 in the United States. So liquidity has a huge impact, and Valentina's research shows that. The final thing that I would say about Valentina, which I love and admire, is her charisma, okay? Anywhere she goes, Angie, I may embarrass you, she lights up the room. She has this presence, this dynamism, this Courtney Searles-like energy. And because of that, she is a star in any setting where she goes. And that's why President Burwell, Courtney have had Valentina on stage for the biggest fundraising events in New York, for the Change Can't Wait event, and why we have her speak to the KOGOT Advisory Committee. And so everywhere she goes, you know that Valentina is present. That greatness, that impact, that boldness is why the KOGODs endowed a chair in her honor. And so we're here to congratulate you, to thank you, and to honor you, Valentina. So it's my pleasure to introduce President Sylvia Burwell, another leader with great impact, who's done a fantastic job leading this institution for almost 7 years. Anybody want to be university president at this time? Okay, very challenging job. President Burwell has led our school. We're going to finish the campaign. We've had, I think, 9 now new chairs. So Sylvia, thank you for being here and welcome.
Dave, thank you. And as we're speaking about Valentina and boldness, want to really thank you for the boldness that you have brought to this school, the KOGOT School of Business, and to our entire university and AU community. So we are very thankful and appreciative, Dave. Thank you. And I will not repeat all of the thank yous, but I want to endorse and second all of the thank yous. I do want to mention Mehdi. Thank you so much for coming. Mehdi Haravi, our board member, and also Latanya Southern, who is the president of the AU alumni. So thank you both so much for coming, as well as it really is for this chair ceremony. I'm seconding everything, but I do want to recognize, because this is an academic ceremony, I really want to thank Peter for coming, and I want to thank Scott for coming too. There's Scott down at that end. Our former provost are both here, and I think with Vicki and our former provost, it is just a real sign and reinforcing what we believe, which is the importance of our scholars and our teachers. So thank you all for coming. I I want to also thank all of our COGOD staff, our faculty from all kinds of schools. I see folks from all of our schools here that are here to support us today. And also a special thanks to Angie and all of the other Valentina family and friends that are here today. And as many of you, I think, know, this is my last actually my last semester as president of AU, and I'm just so excited that I get to do this. This is one of the honors of the job and one of the things that makes one most happy, which is we're so excited that our alumni want to support us in this way, and we're so excited to be able to support incredible scholars. And Lynn, want to thank you very much for coming and representing Bob and Arlene Kogod, who we're all so fortunate to be able to honor this past weekend. Last weekend, Bob became the inaugural inductee into the Kogod Entrepreneurship Hall of Fame, and we celebrated both Bob and Arlene and their remarkable contributions in terms of business, in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of philanthropy, the arts, and as well as really their dedication to this school, this community, and this nation, which is very special. So, Lynn, thank you. And we really celebrated something that ties to this, which is that the Kogods are a perfect illustration of Kogod's vision that business can be a force for meaningful change. And that's what they've represented in their lives. That's what our business school does. That's what our faculty does in terms of that. So today we're here to celebrate Valentina Bruno, who in a manner of moments will be the Arlene R. and Robert P. Kogod Eminent Scholar Chair in Finance. But before we start that celebrating, I do just want to take a moment and just touch on a topic that I think is on many of our minds, and that is actually the topic of anti-Semitism in our country and our world. And in an email that I sent out yesterday that I think went to most people here will have received as members of our communities, one of American University's core values is inclusivity. And that means that we are committed to supporting our Jewish students, confronting anti-Semitism, and creating broadly a community of inclusion. And so I did want to pause on that, and now I would love to get to our celebrating as well. And Professor Bruno came to AU in 2007 from the World Bank and is known, and as you could see and all that Dave said, she sought out for her expertise on global liquidity and the ways that the global economic conditions are swayed by the U.S. dollar. These topics, as Dave mentioned, are near and dear to me, whether it's my time at Treasury, while it's my time at OMB. These issues actually affect many of the international health issues that I worked on as well. And while during her time at AU, she has earned recognition here for both her scholarship and her teaching, which I think you saw and you see in terms of the students that are here today. And I think there are a number of students here today. And if you all don't mind raising your hands, those that are students or former students of Valentina, if you would raise your hands so we can recognize and thank you all. We're thrilled that you're here. And now, through this eminent scholar chair, one of the highest honors that a professor can achieve, she will only continue to grow the impact that she is already doing, and she's going to impact future generations of change makers here and around the world. And here at AU, we are focused on creating more endowed chairs because they really help us to recruit and retain incredible top faculty like Professor Bruno. And those people are change makers in the classroom and outside the classroom. And our $500 million Change Can't Wait campaign, Courtney, if you'll wave, which is just 40 million shy of the finish line. And this is one of the few times in life where I hope we get summit fever. For those who know that concept and understand that concept, this is one where we want to do that. And we have raised $150 million to support teaching, faculty, and research. And it's evident today that we're seeing that impact. And that will continue to resonate for generations. As we congratulate Professor Bruno and bestow on her this high honor, we also celebrate the possibility and potential that this AU community creates in the classroom, in the research lab, and well beyond. I want to thank you all for all being change makers, and Valentina, thank you for your passion, for your incredible commitment and your work to build a better future for us all. Thank you and congratulations.
So when you all received the invitation to this event, it came from Provost Vicki Wilkins. And why is that? Because at its heart, and why are we wearing regalia? At its heart, this is an academic ceremony, because receiving an endowed chair is the height of academic achievement. And so we're lucky at American University to have a wonderful leader in Vicki Wilkins. She has demonstrated her strength and leadership day in, day out since she's taken on this job. And it's my privilege to ask you to come give a few remarks.
Thank you, Dean Marchik. I'm thrilled today to celebrate the second endowed chair installation of this academic year for the Kogod School of Business. Our outstanding faculty inspire the next generation of changemakers in and out of the classroom as gifted professors, practitioners, mentors, and leaders in their fields. They work side by side with students, deliver real-time results, and tackle groundbreaking research that is often translated into real-world impact. Our faculty, whose work confronts the world's most intractable problems, are frequently called upon to provide their expertise on the most pressing business issues of our time. The university has long invested in strategic hires who strive to answer complex societal questions. Kogod's notable faculty represent business professionals with impressive reputations and credentials, teaching and scholarly reach who are critical to elevating the school's programs. The Change Can't Wait campaign has been vital in supporting scholars through endowed professorships and chairs. Endowed chairs advance our efforts to retain AU's most talented, skilled, and committed scholar teachers, and to engage exceptional new faculty who join our community. So why do we refer to these positions as chairs? The roots of the terms come from the medieval Catholic Church. Teaching was said to take place ex cathedra, from the chair. Because each member of the church hierarchy had a throne-like celebrant's chair, cathedra, in his church. It was an outward symbol of authority, wisdom, and responsibility. The idea evolved to include the communities of clerical scholars associated with large cathedrals, and from there grew the concept of academic chairs based in institutions of higher learning. In line with the origins of the name, the practice of installing endowed chairs reflects customs go back millennia. Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius created academic chairs of philosophy in the 2nd century, and Lady Margaret Beaufort, the mother of Henry VII, established the named professorship at the University of Cambridge in 1502. In America, the first endowed professorship was established at Harvard in 1721. Of course, that predates the formation of our country. The chair now signifies the authoritative knowledge of outstanding modern scholars. I'd like to note at this time that although most of what I just read comes from male-dominated institutions and involves men giving each other chairs, I'm very proud to say this is the second time in just this year that we've had women installing women as endowed chairs. That is the AU way of doing things. So at AU, we are creating extraordinary academic programs that prepare our students for today's work and the future of work. As you may imagine, this vision requires the very best scholars and teachers. Today, we honor another of AU's exceptional scholar teachers in the Kogod School of Business, Professor Valentina Bruno. Having earned her doctoral degree in finance from the London School of Economics and Political Science in 2006, Professor Bruno worked for the World Bank's Financial Sector Strategy and Policy Group before joining AU in 2007. Truly groundbreaking research dares to ask questions that do not seem to have an answer. Such research goes beyond the research community's prior understanding of an issue and actually serves to shift the prevailing paradigm. And this is what Professor Bruno does best. She studies topics at the intersection of macroeconomics and finance and opened new lines of inquiry into how global financial markets interact with the real economy. Her recent work focuses on the U.S. dollar's role in global financial condition transmission. Professor Bruno's scholarship has a widely cited in the media and within policy circles, combining economic theory and empirical evidence to inform policymaking and regulatory work. Amongst others, her work has appeared in the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and notably on the cover page of The Economist. Her research has been published in numerous leading academic journals, including the Review of Economic Studies and the Review of Financial Studies. Professor Bruno is a research fellow at the Center of Economic Policy Research, a faculty research member of the European Corporate Governance Institute, and associate editor of the Journal of Banking and Finance. She has been a visiting scholar at the Federal Reserve Board and Council on Foreign Relations, fellow on international economics. At KOGOD, Valentina has compiled an outstanding teaching and scholarly record, consistently ranking among top in scholars and teaching among her peers. Today, American University is proud to install Professor Bruno as the Arlene R. and Robert P. KOGOD Eminent Scholar Chair in Finance. Dean Marchek and Professor Bruno, will you please join me at the podium for the formal installation? Professor Bruno, American University recognizes your outstanding contributions in teaching and research, honors your exemplary service to the field of finance, and acknowledges the distinction you bring to the university by appointing you the Arlene R. and Robert P. KOGOD Eminent Scholar Chair in Finance. With the installation of this chair, American University bestows upon you the highest faculty accolades and recognizes your contribution as a world-class scholar and educator. Congratulations, Professor Bruno. There is a companion medal here for Bob and Arlene KOGOD in recognition of their partnership in establishing this chair. Their medal signifies their enduring legacy and commitment to the highest levels of academic scholarship at AU. Now, in the tradition of these ceremonies, I invite Professor Bruno to deliver her inaugural lecture as the Arlene R. and Robert P. KOGOD Eminent Scholar Chair of Finance.
Well, last time that not one of Federer, Nadal, or Djokovic reached the Australian Open final, well, George W. Bush had just begun his second presidential term. And importantly, the iPhone, YouTube, and Twitter did not exist. So a memorable day in tennis as well today. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a great honor to be here. I want to thank President Burwell, Provost Wilkins, Dean Marchek, for your thoughtful remarks. Your support and leadership, you are true change makers. I also would like to express my gratitude to Bob and Arlene KOGOD for their generous gift. that established not one, not two, but three endowed chair positions as part of the institution's ongoing investments in impactful scholarship and teaching. Bob Kogod is a visionary, philanthropist, a real estate leader who has redefined the Washington, D.C. landscape. Thank you for believing in me and for giving me the opportunity to take on new challenges with your support and trust. I thank the Advancement and Kogod teams who put together this wonderful event today. And I also would like to take this opportunity to thank Emeritus Provost Scott Bass, Peter Starr, Mary Clark, Monica Jackson, the Board of Trustees, my deans, Durand, Ginsberg, Carmel, Delaney, and of course, Dean Dave. Bob Thompson is there. Yeah, Bob Thompson, Ajay, and Parthiban. And the colleagues who supported and helped me throughout this roller coaster of academic adventures and emotions. BIP. As a milestone in my career, this event is both a culmination and a new beginning. Now, when I was preparing this lecture, I went back to my tenure and full professor files. So let me read you what the opening paragraphs was. Valentina Bruno is a financial economist who investigates the global economy using an interdisciplinary approach. Working on research questions at the frontier of multiple disciplines has allowed her to explore a diverse set of areas of finance, economics, international business, law, and management. So you know when you read the stuff after many years and you say, how could I possibly write that? And say, oh gosh, that's so boring, no? So I decided to ask my students to provide me with a few words that they think describe me well. And I ran a survey. You know, we are economists, we run a survey. I sent it to 24 former students, very selection. The survey was anonymous so that they could write wherever they wanted without me knowing their identities. And the first question was, can you give me a few words you feel describe me well? Then I made a word cloud with those words. And this is how the word cloud looks like. So a huge selection bias embedded into it, obviously, no? But inspiring was the word that my students used the most. A few students said that I'm patient, which is not an adjective that my daughter would use for me at home. Next, I asked my students about a memory they have from their interactions with me. And this is what can get me into trouble. Let's see. So it seems that once in class, I said that in Italy, traffic lights are a suggestion. So it also seems that once I told the entire class to please stop watching the UEFA Champions League quarterfinal during one of my classes covering some bank camel ratings. One student commented on my great suits. And one student remembered the references to Mama Fed and the numerous coffee breaks we were having during class. Well, when I joined AU, I was informed about the importance of the scholar-teacher model for the school and the entire university. But back then, I hadn't fully grasped the meaning of it beyond either you publish or perish, and better you have a great teaching evaluation for the students and for the parents that are paying such important tuitions. But time made me realize that being a teacher is much more than getting good evaluations. It is about observing students' careers and lives evolve over time. It is about opening the office door and listen to the students, especially in their darkest moments. Often it is about reminding students to smile and go with a positive attitude during the job interview, to check that the dress shirt does not have those tomato stains on it, and that perhaps it's not a great idea to wear those wonderful yet tight shoes on the day of the interview. Sometimes it's about pushing them into some directions rather than others, just like my professors in Italy and London did for me. A few students even decided to pursue academic research, and they are now at Rochester, Harvard, and at the IMF. You make you proud, but good luck with that nasty referee number 2. And finally, I also want to express my gratitude to all my former students and who traveled here from New York City, Rochester, Ithaca, Madison, Wisconsin, Charlottesville, and downtown DC. Thank you for being here and for sharing this occasion with me. So now, back to the lecture. The title of my inaugural lecture today is The New Architecture of Finance. The architecture of finance is a metaphorical term used to describe the intricate and interconnected structures that make up the financial system. My co-author, Yoon Shin, and I contributed to the new architecture of finance through a novel approach of modeling financial intermediation in a way that better conforms to institutional realities while also integrating traditional macroeconomics. The complexity of globalization and the rise of new vulnerabilities in the world economy call for rewriting the economic models in a way that better conforms to the disruptions, challenges, and reality of today. Now, let me show you 3 architectural examples that exemplify how we contributed to the new architecture of finance. So these pictures shows the celebrated Sushi Aging House in Archangel, Russia, reputed to have been the tallest wooden structure in the world when it was completed. These photos shows its heyday from around 2007. The building multi-layered structure in its heyday suggests that the builder added new floors to the existing structure as construction progressed. The analogy is that of a building and its foundations. In the case of banks, banks' equity is like the foundations of the building. The leverage of the bank is the height of the building that stands on its foundations. The higher the building, the higher the leverage, and greater is the amount of lending done by the bank. And then you can see the turret there on top that seems to be the final flourish of the builder added on top of an already precarious structure. So the analogy would be with the subprime mortgage securitization that came late in the credit boom. The problem comes during the downturn. At this point, the banks reduce lending by reducing leverage and cutting credit supply. In terms of our analogy, this is like reducing the size of the building by demolishing the existing floors. So our paper, Cross-Border Banking and Global Liquidity, has the leverage of global banks as the central concepts that explains co-movement in financial conditions. We identify the existence of a financial channel where credit supply fluctuates as a consequence of how financial intermediaries manage their leverage and non-core liabilities. From a policy perspective, the Bruno and Sheen risk-taking channel shows that the low policy interest rates at the major central banks can increase risk-taking in other countries, thus informing policymakers about the spillover effects of monetary policy and the importance of international policy coordination. You may wonder what happened to the sushi aging house. So this was from 2007, and this is from 2008, after the building was condemned as a fire risk and its upper floors were dismantled. After having its upper floor dismantled, it eventually burned down in fire in 2012. The timing incidentally overlaps with the great financial crisis. And the eventual fate of the sushi aging house is a parable for excessive leverage. You probably recognize this. This is the Millennium Bridge in London. It's a pedestrian bridge that used an innovative lateral suspension design built without the tall supporting columns that are more familiar with other suspension bridges. In June 2000, Queen Elizabeth II inaugurated the bridge. But within moments, the bridge began to wobble violently, and authorities had to close it almost immediately. It remained closed for almost 18 months. And you can still find on YouTube those BBC interviews to the engineers who could not figure out what they did wrong. It's not like we forgot to divide it by 2 or something like that. An engineer said with, envision this engineer saying it in a British accent. We didn't forget it to divide it by 2 or something like that. The Millennium Bridge has become a metaphor for systemic risk. As a gust of wind hit the bridge started moving sideways and wobble. But when this happened, pedestrians immediately adjusted their stance to regain balance. But by doing so, the bridge wobbled even more, thus causing the pedestrians to adjust their stance yet again and wobbling even more. So the wobble is an example of a shock that is generated and amplified within the system. And this is me on the Millennium Bridge on a typical gray Londonese day. My daughter Angie took the picture, and you can imagine her embarrassment when Mama was wobbling on the bridge among astonished pedestrians, even though the bridge was fixed by then. But what does it have to do with financial markets? So think about pedestrians on the Millennium Bridge as traders reacting to price changes. And the movement of the bridge, like a price moves in the market. So under the right conditions, price changes will elicit reactions from traders, which move prices, we elicit further reactions, and so on. So most of the time, financial markets are calm and trading is orderly. But this is when vulnerabilities build up. When the crisis hit, the bigger players like banks, investment banks, and hedge funds rush for an exit, and liquidity dries up. The process is self-reinforcing. The more other players sell, the more I want to sell. And this is the message from our value at risk model, where lower tail risks in the credit portfolio generate expanded spare lending capacity and excessive liquidity, which in turn leads to financial vulnerabilities and global spillover effects when the wheel turns. So this is exactly what happened in the lead-up of the great financial crisis. After the great financial crisis, we observed a shift in the intermediations toward activity in capital markets. In this second phase of my research, the dollar takes the main stage. The dollar becomes the global factor that explains several outcomes, and trends in financial markets, like the worldwide massive increase in corporate debt. Here, our motto is, if you look at the dollar, you get a barometer of global financial conditions. In the paper, Global Dollar Credit and Carry Trace, we show how firms, in particular non-US firms, take advantage of favorable liquidity conditions to borrow a lot, especially in dollar, even though they don't need all that money. And that is the paper that grabbed the attention of The Economist. So here you see is George Washington on steroids, all in green, like the amazing Hulk, flexing his muscles, and with the title, "The Mighty Dollar, America's Currency and the World's Problem." And the title refers to what President Nixon, Treasury Secretary John Conley said at the G10 meetings in Rome in 1971. The dollar is our currency, but it's your problem. The dollar is the preeminent funding currency for borrowers around the world, and it's the currency that underpins capital flows globally. Not just to and from the United States. The dollar is everywhere. There is a recent narrative pointing to the declining role of the dollar as the dominant currency in the world. But the facts tell us that many years have passed since 1971, but the dollar is still our currency and the world's problem. So this is the last slide I want to show you today about the new architecture of finance. This is called the Hub of Hats. It is a real-life Alice in Wonderland construction. It is described as the village upside down, and it is located in South Tyrol in northern Italy. The project wanted to create activities such as standing, swimming, and diving upside down. But each of these positions has a different horizon. It is like an interplay of perspectives and an overturning of horizons. For instance, is the person in the picture diving up or diving down? In the end, it is a matter of perspectives and what economic effects you are after, like the role of the dollar in financial markets. In fact, we are accustomed to drawing an automatic link between exchange rate and performance. From the traditional textbooks we teach our students, we learn that when domestic currency depreciates, exports go up. But the Bruno and Shin financial channel tells a different story. In fact, we show that exchange rates operate in the opposite direction to the traditional textbook models. Here, it is when the dollar depreciates vis-a-vis the domestic currency that financial conditions in that country loosen and economic activity picks up. In the paper Dollar and Exports, we find that firms that are more exposed to dollar funding experience a greater slowdown in exports following dollar appreciation. And this happens because banks reduce the supply of credit when the dollar strengthens. And this has a negative impact on the working capital of firms and ultimately on exports. So the message of our paper is that paradoxically a strong dollar may dampen trade volumes rather than stimulate them. And it's a little bit like turning the world upside down. The other message of our paper is that what happens in financial markets does not stay in financial markets, but it affects the real economy. It is therefore important to understand and possibly anticipate the continuously evolving new vulnerabilities in financial markets and have a focus on the social good and growth that today's economists and financial leaders must consider when crafting policy, because ultimately it is about people's lives. I will conclude now by thanking all of you for taking the time to be here and share this occasion with me. Last, I can't, I have to finish with George. Last but not least, I want to thank my daughter Angie, my best research assistant. Also, my most critical reviewer of my talks and presentations. Thank you for prepping me before a presentation. I hope I did a good job. For your attempts to correct my pronunciation and strong accent, at this point useless, hopeless, and for your wardrobe advice. You are my greatest joy and great fashion advisor. Cheers!
You went to Michael's last night, is that where did you do the Velcro? What store?
Sorry.
What store did you go to buy?
Michael's. So this
okay.
this one.
So I think that what you've just seen, just stay here for a second.
Oh, so stay here, okay.
What you've just seen is what I talked about, boldness, impact, and charisma. So thank you very much. I want to say one other thing, which again ties together Bob Kogod and the Kogod School of Business, okay? On Saturday night, we talked about Bob Kogod's brilliance, but really the theme of the night was how he lifts other people up and helps other people out. We do that at Kogod. So Saturday night, there's a young woman, Emerson, who does our events. She wore the wrong shoes, and she was walking around for about 7 hours, okay? So Professor Danielle Vogel saw her limping. She took the shoes off her feet and gave them to Emerson to wear. Valentina's regalia, which I think Parthaban and Julie ordered from the London School of Economics to get here, arrived at AU about 4 days ago, but are somewhere at AU, not at Kogod. So you'll notice that Valentina is wearing purple, and so the yellow actually is from Michael's last night. They went to Michael's. And so our other eminent scholar chair from the Kogods, Sonia Greer, gave Valentina her regalia to wear, and an example of how people at Kogod lift other people up. So I invite all of you to lift up a glass outside at our reception in honor of our eminent scholar chair in finance. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.